Welcome to this episode of the Strong Kind podcast. This episode is with Justin Andronico. Justin owns Boba Speed School in Hammonton, New Jersey. Boba is an awesome guy to talk to. We got into training for speed, athletic development, youth sports, mindset, and a lot of other good things. It was a great episode. Really enjoyed talking to Justin. You can find him at Boba Speed on Instagram. And I hope you enjoy this episode. Let me know how it hit you. Leave a review or a comment and like it and subscribe. Thanks for being here. All right, Justin. So tell me about why you care about speed training, making kids.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think speed training is if you draw or write out all of the things that's necessary to be a good athlete, strength, mobility, stability, power, all of those things fit under the speed training umbrella. So, speed training fills all the other buckets of physical and technical qualities necessary to be a good athlete. So, by anchoring myself to speed, I'm checking all of those other boxes every time I'm doing good speed training.
I like that. What made you like because you were a lineman, right?
Yeah, I was a I'm not going to say fat, but I was an offensive lineman in high school. I was middle of the road everything.
Yeah.
Middle of the road
I'm
strength, middle of the
still
road speed.
yeah, I'm still there, dude.
And then I went to college and I was studying exercise science, was fortunate enough to have a internship at a Velocity sports performance location. And then through learning their philosophies, I was like, wait, there's things I can do to better improve myself. And I had a little exposure toward the end of my high school years, but I didn't have the knowledge level to fully put it all together. So, and then that was like, wow. And then as I'm getting older, most of my friends are in their college years, getting slower, getting more out of shape. I was just getting faster by training athletes, by showing them what to do, and not even training a ton myself, but a couple exercises here, a couple demonstrations there. Over the course of time, I'm like, wait, I can jump higher, I can run faster. And then that was kind of my proof of concept that now I do train that way, and I've continued to get faster all the way through my 30s.
That's pretty dope. I think I just always look back at like man, I had so I played soccer and I played football and I don't want to ever give myself like any more like credit than I was actually due from an athletic standpoint, but I basically had it ingrained into my consciousness that I was slow and that I wasn't going to improve upon like my speed um because of like basically my genetics, which I think seeps into a lot of kids' consciousness, like self-consciousness pretty fast. What I did figure out is that I could run far for a relative at a really like a relatively quick clip. Like I could run 3 miles like in between 18 and 20 minutes, which for like a soccer player is pretty good, right? But um I had multiple of my football coaches were just like, Dave, you have the slowest foot first step. Your top end is not that bad, but like getting going, you are so slow. And I think it's just unfortunate, and it's not a thing against them, but it's like that's something you can literally train, like and improve upon, right? And I that's the thing I think I really appreciate you is like in high school, kids are so moldable. If you can get them to start to believe that like, oh, I can this can get better, right? Do you have a like are you seeing that with kids like where they come in their first day of testing they kind of feel maybe down, but then you're like, no, like this is you have a lot of room for improvement. That's good, right?
100%. I think a lot of it, and it is not in any malicious way, but it's the coaches and the parents. And I had one baseball player. He was an 11-year-old boy who his coach told him like you should just stop playing baseball because you're so slow. Nothing to do with his abilities to play baseball. And I remember it was hard on the kid, and I was talking to his mom about getting him enrolled. And I was like, listen, what has he ever done to improve his speed? She's like, nothing. I was like, so how are we expecting him to be fast? How are we expecting him to be good? It's a skill, just like anything else. You can't hand someone a baseball bat and expect them to be proficient at hitting. You can't expect someone to just not know what they're doing. He's now been training with me for a year and a half, and he is now middle of the road for his peers, which is a huge accomplishment from where he started. Of the coach, which, first of all, coach should never say this to anyone, telling him that you should stop playing because you're slow.
Yeah.
100%. And it's the confidence and the mental aspects that come with the athletes starting to believe in themselves.
Yeah, dude. The belief in self, as like cheesy and as cliche, like, dude, it's so fun. Like, people who are good athletes, like, they have that feed forward, like they have that feed forward feedback. And that it's the kids who are like middle of the road, and like, they maybe have a couple good attributes, but like they don't get as much. Honestly, it's just like, there's studies that show that when teachers think a kid is like talented, they put more effort into the already talented kid, which is absolutely wild to me. Like, and that's not bad. It's just what humans do, right? We just create a cycle around what's already working, as opposed to like looking and be like, okay, what is this kid who, yes, like, doesn't know how to run fast, like, because it is something that you can know how to do, right? Like, it is an improvable skill, just like strength is an improvable skill. Yes, your genetics are going to kind of determine your ceiling, but like the floor of people is able to be leveled up so much that, like, that's where we should be spending our time. What's
I'm going to challenge one thing you said there.
Yeah, no, please.
I don't think that, I mean, to some extent, but I don't think anyone has a set ceiling.
I agree with that. I agree with
If
that.
you are willing to train long enough, one of my one of my fastest athletes is, he a year ago ran a 4.67 40-yard dash last July. We linked up, we started training in September. He's tested his 40 monthly since then. It has improved every single month. This July, he ran like a couple weeks ago, a 4.38.
Damn. Yeah.
It's simply the fact that and this is through an off season, through an indoor track season, and through a spring track season. He PR'd at almost every meet or every other meet from December until May, just because he was just training properly and resting properly. He really bought into all of the other things that are necessary to get faster, that a lot of athletes sometimes know, but their coaches put them in positions where it's a lose-lose.
Yeah. Let's talk. So I'm with you. I'm gonna make a caveat. I think there is like a genetic ceiling. I think most people never get like even close, right? Then you do have like the people who like Usain Bolt, right? But like Usain Bolt, if he doesn't show up and train and like envision himself as a little kid being like a really fast, because that's the other big thing is like, and we can talk about this when it comes to business and stuff. It's like Usain Bolt has to envision himself becoming like the 100-meter champion, right? Like, you have to like see that over and over again, and I think that's super powerful. But I'm with you too. I think most people never. And let's get into the rest game, because that is something that I have a hard time resting. Like, I love to be like the hardest worker type of mentality, even though like in my garage I'm the only person in there, so I'm always the hardest worker in there. But like, the resting and like the allowing fatigue to dissipate so that you can perform, that's such a hard concept for athletes and coaches to like buy into. What do you do that helps people buy into that?
I really just try and educate them. I don't know if you're familiar with Tony Holler, but he's famous for his feed the cats, which is basically he wants to treat his athletes like they're lions and tigers and jaguars. And he wants to sprint, he wants to sprint fast and then lay around in the savannah 23 hours out of the day. Like, that's his philosophy. And he's a fantastic track coach and multiple, I think it's Indiana or Illinois state championships, like very, very prestigious. And he's started the mantra of feed the cats. I think the biggest thing is education. And the other thing of saying, like, trying to be the hardest worker in the room, I try and tell my athletes that the rest, you're working smart by resting. That's part of the recipe that's necessary for achieving your goals. So don't view it as I'm lazy, I'm resting. View it as I'm going to kick ass on Saturday because I'm resting on Thursday type of thing.
Yeah, that's a good. It is the hard part about like it's probably the number one thing that I like. I just had a call with somebody a little bit ago. It's like if you are feel like if you're an adult and like you're getting niggles and moans and groans and stuff and you're generally on the right trajectory, it's like, well, you probably you're just overreaching and like you just need to be okay with like a little bit of a pullback in what you're doing. But people hate it's like taking it's like, oh, once I've leveled up, it's like taking a step kind of back so you can take 3 steps forward feels like such a giant like I don't know, want to say loss, but people just have a hard time doing it, right? And
100%.
um and I think, do you think it helps when kids are prepping for a season because it's like I have this thing that's the real goal. Like the real goal is to perform at the meet, right? Or to perform in the game, right? Whereas like a lot of I mean adults, it's kind of like the real goal is like maybe the thing they're not really saying, but the real goal is to like look like they're an athlete, like to feel good and to look jacked. Do you think that having that game or that meet like helps them buy into that a little bit?
Yes and no. Like, definitely yes. But also, I think traditional sports seasons, because of the associations that come with them, actually hinder athletes. So the athletes who see the best results with me are the ones who it doesn't matter what season, it doesn't matter. We are speed training year round because especially for these seventh, eighth, ninth grade athletes, like their their seasons kind of don't matter. Like you're not playing a sport so you can be the best eighth grade
Yeah.
soccer player. You want to play the sport so your junior year, when college coaches can talk to you, they see you at a tournament and they're like, oh my goodness, that athleticism. So, what is going to help you get there is doing the training year round. But we, as sports and youth sports, it's like, oh, we're supposed to be tired all the time. It's the preseason. I just think it's stupid.
Yeah. Yeah. So then let's get into like long-term athletic development because what you're doing is more athletic development, but there are also people playing sports specifically like year round, right? What are your
100%.
what are your thoughts on that?
So I think that it's just decision making and programming that makes it possible.
Hmm.
So speed detrains every 3 to 5 days. When I work with my athletes, it's almost like building like a pyramid. So the base of the pyramid is high speed exposures. Depending on the athlete's position and sport, determines if I consider their game a high speed exposure or not. So, say I have a soccer player who plays striker who has a tournament on Saturday. That I would consider his high speed exposure for the week. So, I would sprinkle in some speed training earlier in the week to allow that athlete to feel fresh on the day that they have to perform. If I have an offensive lineman who has a football game on a Friday night, that's not a high speed exposure for that athlete. They're not getting enough percentage of their top speed for me to stamp that as, okay, that's your speed, that's your top speed exposure for the week. So that athlete, Thursday or Friday, when you're done your walkthrough, that's when we're going to get your high speed exposure. And then kind of filling in the other pieces of their programming based upon those games. When there's no games, you don't have to worry about that. But that's how I deal with in-season programming.
Hmm. So in season, you're like basically saying, all right, you're taking position, what the qualities of that position are, and then you're trying to because speed detrains every 3 to 5 days. You're trying to basically keep them at a level of capacity to perform that like when they're in their game they can like yes because like offensive linemen like theoretically how much are they like the speed and power are kind of they're very similar qualities, right? Like but they're not going to get they're going to get a lot of strength like exposures. They're gonna get a lot of like pushing and moving type of exposure, but they're not gonna get top end speed. So you're trying to make it so that they can perform well, basically by keeping the physical quality of speed like trained, basically is what you're saying, right?
Yeah,
You,
100%.
you want the soccer player to be physically capable, and they're gonna get high speed exposures in the game. So you just want to hit them earlier in the week with the same thing so that they don't detrain it in preparation for the game, right? That's like the general philosophy there.
100%. I think the other big thing with scheduling is just it's I don't want to ever say a game isn't important because games are the most important thing always. And every decision is to optimize performance in games. But a rec league Saturday morning soccer game, I don't care if you're fatigued. I don't care if you're 85% of your best. We have a travel tournament in Florida for a showcase tournament. Yeah, I'm changing programming leading up to it because that's the 10% of the performance will give you a 90% of the long term out of your career. But those little meaningless, and I hate to call them meaningless, but
Yeah.
those kind of fun rec games, like they're just not as important.
Yeah. Do you feel so like back to do you feel like kids are being too asked of like too much is being asked of kids via parents or coaches when it comes to sport specific training, sport specific practice year round? Do you see that?
Definitely yes. I think the best athletes, I view it as a Venn diagram. Athleticism, sports specific skills, the middle is going to be your elite level athletes.
Yeah.
But I think once you get a basic competency of your sports specific skills, the return on time for continuing to do them is not worth it.
That's
Because so think of baseball. Think of a 10-year-old kid who's never played baseball. Those first 100 hours of hitting lessons are so valuable. It's almost necessary to play the sport well. But hour 122, the return that you're getting is not as much as starting something like a strength and speed program. Now you're getting those gains, which that's going to help your hitting more than that additional 30 swings on a tee or something like that.
yeah. Improving the general qualities of strength and force production and speed like are going to contribute to your bat speed better than like playing the sport is key and king and honestly king up until a point where like your weaknesses as an athlete are holding you back, right? And then that's when you level up the like I just always say like level up the organism, like make the human more capable and bat speeds like I mean just go back to Barry Bonds. The dude was an incredible freaking baseball player. Leveled up his strength and ability to like produce force and became an incredible like steroids helped but like ability
That's
to
strength, though.
hit the
Strength
ability of
increase.
and we could argue mostly what the steroids were probably doing mostly was just keeping him healthy like so that he can train, right? Like that's the thing that people don't really get about like steroids in sport. It's like it's more to keep people like healthy so that they can perform. At least that's my conception of it. um
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think going back to coaches though, and the sports specific thing, I think not enough people consider what a practice does to an athlete, even if they aren't doing a lot. So let's just use an example of it's hot out, it's summer. Let's say we have field hockey practice and we're running 3 hour practices every morning.
yeah.
Say of that 3 hours, maybe an hour of it, they're just standing. But standing on the heat in the summer and just is fatiguing over time.
Yeah.
So I always try when I consult with coaches, how can we make this more efficient? Can we how can we get more athletes doing more work in a shorter period of time?
Yeah.
Because over the course of a week, when you're running 5, 6 days a week at 3, 4 hours a pop, it's just unnecessary time that just puts fatigue levels so high that it's hard to get the results that we want in the gym.
Yeah. The best practices we ever had for soccer. So for football, that's the hard part about it, dude. being full pads and stuff, like I'm not gonna critique. I loved my high school football coaches. I just also see from like a sports performance and physiology standpoint, it's like, man, we should have been having like 90-minute practices, not 2-hour plus practices. And we should have been without pads, like half the practice. Like just take your pads off, right? Like just that type of stuff. But the best practices we ever had for like soccer is with like literally like 15 minutes of warm up, 30 to 40 minutes of like just games, like game situations and scrimmaging, and then we would be done. And then like those were usually the day, or they were the day before like a game. It's like you felt so good because you weren't just like honestly running your ass off for 2 hours. Like, and there is some amount of capacity. You need the capacity to do work, but you also like that tapers off pretty quickly. Like you really just need the capacity to play 90 minutes or maybe a little bit more well. And I think a lot of people just get it's easy to throw volume on. It's easy to throw more work on. Like that's just kind of the nature of the beast, right?
Yeah, and I just think the way practices are designed a lot of the time, it doesn't even represent what the sport actually is. Like
Yeah.
you'll do one skill and say you got a team of 20 people and they'll run through one by one and then they stand around watch everyone else. Now it's of yeah, you were doing that for 15 minutes. That athlete was working for a minute and a half.
Yep.
I run full football team trainings and 100% of the time, every single person is doing the same thing at the same time, or two separate things, but everyone's working at the same time. Because if not, I'm just wasting everyone's time.
Yeah. Yeah. Efficiency is a very good thing. There's also something to that because a lot of times, like, as an adult, like I'll go and do like a track workout and it'll like take 20 minutes and you're like, damn, do I need to do more in this? It's like, no, like that was what you needed to do right there, right? But like for some reason we've got it chunked into our brain like, oh, workouts need to take like an hour, right? And it's like, no, like if it's achieving the goal of the thing, like that's really what matters, right? All right, what are the misconceptions that parents have about like what sports performance should be or speed should be that like you have to maybe navigate and talk through that type of stuff?
I think the biggest thing is that, like we talked about earlier, that their kids are what they are. That I can't tell you how many parents, my kid is slow. I don't know if you're going to be able to help him because he's a slow kid. Or like it's almost like the parents don't fully understand that everyone is capable of improvement and that whatever their kid is right now is not what they're going to be in the future. And that's kind of the biggest thing to fight is, and this is changing as I'm getting more people through my programs and people in the community are starting to see what's possible. But at first, like they can't wrap their head around I can take their kid from wherever they are and help them get faster and more athletic.
Yeah, which is pretty wild.
Yeah, I mean,
It's like you I think that's kind of one of the overarching things that I care about is like just neuroplasticity, like learning, like improvement is in like most people with time, repetition and intention have the capacity to improve and improve significantly. Like even pain, man, like pain is a learned, unfortunately, it's a learned experience. Like that is some of the stuff, and even I think we do a disservice to people when it like, but it's just such a prevalent narrative. Like, dude, the Olympics are starting, right? We're gonna listen to commentators say shit that is just not true about like performance and pain and injury. And NFL's coming up. You know this. Football's coming up. Which have you bought? Are you gonna play NCAA football? Do you play games?
so I that game is my life. I have made the decision not to buy a new Xbox, so I can't play it because I already don't sleep enough as is. So I made the decision not to buy it yet. Last night, I made one of my athletes bring his Xbox in. We hooked it up to the big screen after training. So I played it for the first time yesterday. I'm itching to buy it, but I am
Dude,
deciding to wait until after football season.
I think after football season. Okay. Okay. Like yeah, you got to get through your
I slow down a little bit after summer with this, like kind of how my business is,
yeah.
and that'll be the time where I'll get some hours logged.
I think I'm gonna pull the trigger. I'm jonesing to play that, and I just like I one of the things that really helped me was when I was in undergrad. The way my brain works is if I played like a game of football, like one game of Madden, and then I could go back to studying. But I had to like you could only do one, or I play like a couple rounds of COD, and then it's like go back to studying. It actually helped me study way more, but I had to like make this deal with myself. And like that's kind of what I'm thinking, and I'm convincing my wife Mary, so we'll see. But so when it comes like going back to like dude, commentating and even social media, like as much as you want to fight against like the narrative that like people can't get better, like as much as people love Rudy, right? They love the idea of Rudy. They're still like really they and even Tom Brady. Like let's like talk about Tom Brady. Like think about how much improvement Tom Brady went through. And we look at him as like the GOAT, right? But now the narrative is almost shifted that like it was still his like destiny to become that. It's like no, that dude like chose it. He chose to like show up and be like and be humble and like literally like Bill Belichick, I'm sure was fucking hard to play for, right? And like you get like you go into the crucible and like this sounds so cheesy, but you just focus on getting better. It's like Kobe mentality, right? Like just figure out how to get better, figure out how to get better. That's the type of stuff that I like that narrative gets put forth to some extent, but the underlying thing that people still think about is like you got to be talented. You got to be the best. You got to be like it's got to be God given to some extent. How does that piss you off, or like what are your thoughts there?
I think I think the problem is that what people hear is all they know. Like Tom Brady's success, people will try and argue it's because he ate a tomato every day,
Jew.
rather than the fact that he logged 8 hours a day watching film trying to improve. It's the same thing you see with like training of NFL players. Derrick Henry, dude works so hard. 95% of his program is probably true basic performance science. 5% is dumb shit that goes on Instagram. And people think he runs for 2,000 yards a year because he can do a single leg squat on a Bosu ball while someone's pushing him and he's playing catch. Like, sure, he can do that, but that's not why he's Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
And that's the part where people anchor to the wrong things. They'll take Tom Brady, who I agree with you is the perfect example of improvement over time, and they'll ignore the basics that he did for decades because he eats a tomato a day. And like that's like the thing that doesn't matter. He's successful in spite of the fact that he's eating it. Like the tomato a day is neither here nor there, but that's what people start to do, missing the hard work, the part that really matters.
It's like yeah, there's the fallacy of just like yeah, Derrick Henry can squat and on a Basu ball and catch a ball and like get hit and still do it because he's done all like because he is like he's Derrick Henry like and this is where the feed forward we'll talk about books here in a second but like or why I love books so much but the feed forward of Derrick Henry being a little bit like maybe a little bit taller than other kids or just a little bit faster. Like then you're a little bit more confident to catch a ball, right? You catch the ball, you start running with it. There's this feed forward. Derrick Henry is a product of fundamentals and time and confidence and capacity, right? But people will be like, "Oh yeah, he's doing that crazy training," and it's like, and no, it's like no, he's probably just squatting heavy, doing power oriented work, sprinting well, and then taking care of himself, like sleeping and eating well and all that type of jazz. Um, no, we like you asked me yesterday in a different meeting, like, or you said like books. The reason I love books so much is because books taught me that I wasn't stupid. I thought I was dumb.
I,
And I read Malcolm Gladwell was one of the first books that when I got back into reading, because I read as a little kid, and then like you get into high school and you just stop reading because everybody's telling you what to read, right? And I read I think it was Outliers. It was either Outliers or The Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell. And I think it's The Tipping Point. The Tipping Point is basically like the 10,000 hour rule, right? But it also was a lot of no, Outliers is also good because Outliers talked about how like kids that get chosen for premier hockey teams like in Canada were typically born in July or August. So they were just a little bit bigger than other kids when it came time for selection, right? And they were a little bit better at hockey at skating. And so, when they're 6 and another kid's 5.5, they're getting selected, right? And that like those two books, those two concepts of like, okay, repetitive practice and deliberate practice really matter, but a lot of it's just like luck and being in the right place at the right time. And you can create your own luck via work, right? Like that's the cool concept that I think a lot of kids and parents need to understand. Like, and me and you, when we'll get into business here, it's like, my business is successful because I put in a shit ton of time. Like, and I'm trying to just get better and like kind of just trying to, I honestly just ask, or I see people who are doing business better than me and I just try to figure out what they're doing. And then I replicate that as best in my own flavor, right? And I think success leaves clues. And we can kind of talk about this because I want to get your journey with business a little bit. But I think people always go to like that person's got it easier than me, or their circumstances are different. When it's like a lot of times, like, I mean, I started my business on the tail end of like depression that like was crippling me, and it just gave me something to put my energy into. And I know you like had kind of a failed attempt and came back into it and like have grown, and like are you really proud? I'm very proud of my business. I think that's it's a cool thing to say. Like I think you're really proud of your business too. You got all the swag, which is dope. But let's talk about that a little bit. Let's talk about like the entrepreneurial journey
Yeah,
and what
a
you've learned.
100%. I think the biggest thing for me is I don't care about my business's success, and that's why I'm so successful.
It's a good way to
Because
put it.
every single day I try, and again, these are corny cliche things that are 1,000,000% true. Every day I just try and win the day. I try and have a successful day. And I have a belief that if I do what I consider to be the right things and I treat people well, all the rest of it is going to take care of itself. And
Yeah.
that's not to say I'm not intentional with what I'm doing, but I look at my inputs rather than being concerned with the outputs.
Yeah. That's a good recipe for success.
Yeah, this is my third business, we'll say, third business attempt. I think the first two, I just wasn't at a personal development place where I was ready to be successful. I was a smart kid growing up. Things came easy to me. I never had to work real hard all the way through graduating with my doctorate with like a 3.95. Like it wasn't ever difficult because the way our schooling system is set up is do the things, check the boxes, and you end up with good results. Well, life doesn't work that way. You can do the things, you can check the boxes, but it doesn't mean you're going to have a good result. And my first two attempts, I just thought, oh, I started a business. Now I'm going to be wildly successful and make a lot of money. That's not how it works.
Yep.
And it took me failing a couple times, trying to find an easier way out by leaving the profession completely, to really just accept the fact that this shit's going to be hard. I'm not playing a 3-month game. I'm playing a 30-year game. And as long as I don't quit, I'll be successful. And that's what I do day over day. And a lot of days I don't want to, but it doesn't matter my thoughts and feelings because the work must get done.
Dude, it's funny because the amount of days where I just like I kind of like try to shut it off because the more I do shut it off at around like 5 or 6 at night, just wait my own business because I know like you have to work. Some of you at this season you got to work when you got to work, right? But like you got to be able to shut it off and enjoy life, right? But a lot of days it's like, damn, what did I do today? Like, and I worked my ass off, and like, yeah, it's I'm with you too. I think playing that infinite game where it's like, eh, there's no this next day matters, right? This next month matters. But it also like it does I'm not gonna stop. Like that's kind of the hard part of like when you do see some quote unquote success with like being your own in your own business is like you can't go back. Like, dude, I don't think I could go back to work being like a PT in a hospital, or being a PT even at a clinic. Like, if something really crazy happened, I like yes, maybe that would be the thing. But now I see the game, and yeah, you're like yeah, you're shaking your head at
Nope,
that.
never.
But like, yeah, the more you just start playing that, like, yeah, I'm just doing this for the long term, and it really does boil down to my ability to like ask honestly asking good questions, and usually they're simple questions. They're not like this is one thing I was thinking about yesterday. It's like how do I get better? Right? That like yes, we need to get a little bit more specific, but like what that does is it scales. And if you're happy with like where how things are going, that's fine. But like improvement is always going to benefit you. Like improving my ability to communicate with my wife is going to improve my relationship with my wife, which will benefit me because I'm not exhausted from my interpersonal relationship. It will benefit me in business, right? Just like a kid, like, hey, I know it's this is what I would have tell myself because I never did homework at night. I would like get to school and then I'd try to like get it done right before. And I'm like, that was so stressful, right? Just do your homework at 7 o'clock at night for 30 to 45 minutes. And then you can like wake up and go to school and like not be stressing out the first morning of the day. Right. But like nobody ever like nobody saw it, and then I didn't have like anybody like guiding me there, right? But like just think of that, like think of the fight or flight that you're creating day after day by like waiting till the morning of to like try to get your homework done. It's just like crazy. And but it's really when you do things well repetitively, then like you set yourself up to have more energy for the things that actually matter, right?
I was so on the other end of the spectrum. My friends flame me for this to this day still. Like if we got like a project assigned like on a Monday and it's like due in 3 weeks, I had it done in 2 or 3 days
Yeah.
because I was so conditioned by the system that do your thing and like I got good grades on these projects. I thought I was it just gave me this like almost fake sense of like doing a good job. And I did do a good job on the project and I got it done early, but it was all to me like, check these boxes and you'll be successful in life. Like, do these things. And I was like, well, if I could do it a day early, if I do it a week early, I'll be even more successful. And it's just not really how it works.
I think part of it is there's this like because you said this, and I think this is something that a lot of people face. School is neat. It's what you call it's like school is kind of a fair game, right? Like life is kind of a wicked game because the rules change. But like school, it's like, all right, this is the criterion to get this grade. And especially when you are like I love a lot of the people that I went to PT school with, super book smart people, right? But like don't not like you can see this, Justin, like not a whole lot of people were thinking about like fitness and strength as part of the PT curriculum. It was like, hey, they've got this diagnosis. This is what you do to treat it. This is the manual technique. And I'm like, no, I'm just gonna get them freaking squatting and getting stronger and like moving. Like that'll take care of it. But it once you get outside of that school mentality where it's like, here's your good grade, the lack of clarity in like adult life gets hard for a lot of people to manage. Like this is like when it comes to athletes, when it comes to helping people like personally, it's really like how do we create enough clarity for you to just take action? And but some of that is just like you're gonna get kicked in the freaking teeth. Like you're gonna fail. And that's okay. Like you're gonna learn way more from your struggles than from just the fast success that you have.
100%. 100%. I remember the exact day where I threw my hands up and said, I'm not doing this anymore. My son was born. I had my 12 weeks of paternity leave, arguably the best 12 weeks of my life, had to go back to work. I was like a month in. I worked at a nursing home all through COVID. They were great to me. My employers were great to me. They were giving everyone raises for kind of getting through the pandemic. Things were starting to calm down, yada yada. And I remember they told me like well, you're already at the highest pay scale that we could pay you. Like they took care of me. They added an extra week of vacation. And now I'm sitting here, my wife's calling me on my drive home telling me that our son rolled over for the first time. And like it was like proud. It's cool to see a human develop. And like I missed it. Meanwhile, I'm getting told that I'm at the top end of what I could be getting paid, and reimbursement goes down every year. And I just sat to myself and I said, I don't know what the path is, but I know this ship is sinking and I have to get off of it.
Yeah.
And it took a couple years of different paths to find the path that I'm on now with Boba Speed School, but it was all part of the journey of growth, getting me to the point where I can be successful where I am now.
Yeah, it's crazy because it's having like the courage to like keep trying stuff like is pretty dope. All right, we were gonna talk about this, and I haven't veered us this way. Tell me what boba means, or why are you boba?
Boba is the most confident, best version of every single person.
Okay, where does that
So
come from?
I so the story of boba is not for public consumption. It's one of these things that I share with my athletes. I really try making a boba athlete mean something. That's
Okay,
why we got the Lululemon drip that the athletes earn over time. So the story of where boba came from, we're gonna keep to the close circle. But in terms of what boba is, it is the most confident version of any person, the best that they could be. And one thing, I don't know if you've seen it on my socials, but it's hashtag free boba.
yeah,
So you need to free your boba from societal norms and social expectations. That is what we are striving for. I've been my friends know I've been yelling free boba since about 2012, 2013. And no one still to this day really knows what it means. But it's just my way of reminding myself that just because things have been a certain way doesn't mean I have to accept that, and I can live life however I want. And then the secondary meaning of Boba Speed School, it's testing my hypothesis that the name for a business means absolutely nothing.
dude, 100%.
When I see boba or someone says I'm going to Boba's, or it makes me laugh every single time because I know the real meaning of it.
I love that. I mean, you don't have to tell it for it doesn't have to be for public consumption. I love the overarching philosophy. Do you know? So, do you know what my initial business name was?
No.
It was Prescription Strength. And then I found like there's 7 other people named Prescription Strength, or there was a bunch of people on Instagram. And like I love that, yeah, like okay, because I'm sure now boba like it means something that it's like it doesn't matter. But like strength and kindness, who the who the F names their business Strength and Kindness, right? But it, it I'm 100% a believer in character and philosophy over everything else. Like if somebody has good character and if somebody embodies like their philosophy, like that's great. And strength and kindness. So, do you know the song "One Dance" by Drake?
Of course.
So he says, "Strength and guidance are all that I wish for my friends." And in PT school, that song came out, and I'm like, "Strength and kindness," and my buddies are like, "Dude, Dave, he's saying strength and guidance," and I'm like, "What? I think it's saying strength and kindness." That's why I named my business Strength and Kindness, because like I mean, strength and like kindness is a core philosophy, and I think kindness fundamentally, and you would vibe with this. Kindness does not mean being nice. Kindness means like telling somebody the freaking truth. Like if you did athletic testing on me and like, Dave, you got a lot of work to do. right? That is way better than just saying the reality of it. Like, hey, you are not where you want to be, but like this is what we need to do to get there. Or in healthcare, like, dude, I just when I was in the hospital, people would blow so much smoke up people's butt about like their health. It's like, yeah, like people who need to like work out. Like, yeah, what with this surgery you can benefit. And it's like, no, like the surgery, you can get the surgery if you want, but like go like tell them to exercise. Tell them and help them figure out how to take care of themselves. Like that is what kindness means. And when we don't tell people the truth, we are doing them a disservice. And even because it's kind of painful. Like that is true. It is kind of painful to be like, "Hey, this is what needs to change if you want your health to change." But it's way kinder to people than blowing smoke up their ass or letting them think that like, yeah, we can just keep fixing you. And that's like why my business is named what it is because I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm going to help you, but I'm going to be straight up, be like, yeah, well, if you want this, you got to do this, right? And it's going to take effort and time. And being honest, like one of my core philosophies is like I'm going to market as honestly as I can because I hate so much of the bullshit marketing that's out there in the fitness and health space, right?
100%. I feel like what I tell myself is just do the right thing. Like I
Yep.
eliminate decision making by doing the right thing. A couple days ago, taking the dog for a walk. Dog goes to the bathroom probably about a quarter mile from my house. Check the pockets.
No
Oh
bag.
no, don't have any bags. I walk home, get a bag, drive in my car, and go pick it up
Yeah.
because the right thing to do is not leave it there. And I think that has served me better than anything else. Like you said, how do I have a hard conversation? Because I tell myself it's the right thing to do. Treating people well, treating people with respect, all the basic things. My wife and I, and now we're teaching our kids is just do the right thing.
Yeah.
When my son gets mad and throws his popsicle stick and we're at the park, is the right thing to do to leave that there? No. Okay, let's pick it up and throw it out. And it's just using that as a guiding light to treat people well has served me very well.
Yep. Yeah. You're the right thing is often challenging, but it's way better in the long term, right? The easy thing is usually easy right now, and then it's bad in the long term, right? And that's a core thing to teach like the kids that you're working with. That's one of the things that your business like you've gained access to kids at a very moldable age, and like I love that because if you and it's not that their parents and their coaches like have bad intentions. It's just that having somebody outside of the ecosystem that can come in and inject this optimistic mentality is so crucial because people like there's a tribe mentality in a lot of teams, right? Where like that like there's the stars and then there's the kids in the middle and then there's the kids at the bottom, right? And unfortunately, I do feel like a lot of this sports are getting to where we're just eliminating the kids at the bottom, right? And then like what's going to be next is the kids in the middle are going to be on the chopping block, and we're going to get this like weird, unfortunate cycle of just like the elite being the elite, where it's like no, like the kids and everybody across that whole team can improve, and you're going to be a much better team if everybody gets better, right? And like, but like that type of stuff gets sucked out of teams and organizations quickly, right?
The one thing I found similar to that point is that it's almost like the speed training and the performance training is just a Trojan horse for the mindset stuff, for the personal development stuff. And that's like, yeah, my athletes, every single one of my athletes gets faster and we see great results. But the parents rant and rave about how they handle stressful situations and how they deal with accepting the process of needing to be work hard for a consistent amount of time. I tell my athletes two things: show up, work hard. This is from Alabama and Nick Saban. If you show up and work hard, I'll take care of everything else.
Yeah.
I'll do your programming. I'll help you make decisions. I'll consult on whatever you need. And that's the thing that I think really drives the results is that my athletes know and respect that the things I'm telling them, like I'm living this life too. I
Yeah.
might be 31 years old. I'm training. There's days where I come in and be like, guys, I skipped my workout yesterday. I don't pretend to hit them every day. I
Yeah.
don't pretend to not eat a pint of Ben and Jerry's on a Saturday night while watching a movie. That happens. And I'm
Yeah.
very transparent about all of those things with them. And it makes them feel like, yeah, I messed up too. It's cool. It doesn't matter. We just
Yeah.
can get over it the next day.
Dude, self improvement needs to be tied very closely with self-compassion, because it's when the people it's the idea of that there's people out there who are like perfect, which it's like, no, they're just only showing you the side of them that is perfect. Because when you get hit with that reality, like, dude, you're an 18-year-old kid. If the worst thing you're doing is having a pint of Ben and Jerry's, like, we are doing a good job. Right? Like so it's kind of some of that recognition. But yeah, man, and this authenticity, I think one of the other big things is like social media is very much like a highlight reel, and like I don't want it to be how I want to project myself for my business, but mostly just for my own peace of mind. Is I just want to project myself how I actually am, so that like when we actually have a conversation, there's no deviation in what that's like. And if you do that, like that's what kids should see, or that's what's beneficial, or what being like a good role model is in this day and age. I think to some extent, it's like like, you know, because social media is a big problem. I think for kids, uh, it's a big problem for adults too. But like, yeah, like this is me. Like I'm just using this as a force for good, right? Because what you see on here can be a lot of negative shit or a lot of dumb stuff. But like I'm just trying to broadcast my philosophy and do the right thing over and over again. So I appreciate that. I think it's good. Uh
100%.
wrapping up here. How do people find you?
Boba Speed. Instagram, Boba Speed. If you're in South Jersey and you want to get faster, let me know. I got you.
He's also taken a few online clients I've seen in the near not too distant or the not too distant past. So
I
yeah,
do. I have been, and I also am starting to get the wheels spinning on some adult performance programs. So definitely excited for the future of Boba Speed.
yeah, dude, I love it. I appreciate you. This was good talk, a lot of fun. I'm sure I'll be talking to you later today in some form as well. But good luck on making it through the rest of work before you buy that Xbox and start playing NCAA football. Who's
I
your team?
I so I went to Rutgers.
Okay.
I am just a college football junkie. Like I know more about college football than anyone probably should.
Yeah.
Two deep depth charts like Rutgers 2025 recruiting class, top 15 in the nation. If we could maintain that for the next year, we're in a good place. But I don't have a team.
All right.
I love the sport.
It is a great sport. And it is a good time of year. Like I'm like, I love football. I'm not gonna, I honestly don't sit around and watch a lot of it. I watch one game on Saturday, maybe, and then I watch one game on Sunday. Like that's kind of what I allow myself. But I do love watching it. I love the drama.
I'm a I'm an 11 games at one time Saturday kind of guy.
It's wild to me. I would be overly stimulated, just going crazy.
I don't know, it's just kind of over time. I've just naturally, I truly like, I watch 11 games and I don't miss plays and I know what's going on in all of them. I don't know, just what I'm good at. And I've
Hey,
been getting very deep in South Jersey high school football now that I've been working with football teams and training a bunch of athletes. So I am also excited for high school football season coming up here.
yeah, high school football season is a fun time. So good stuff. You're doing good work. I appreciate you being on the podcast. And yeah, glad to be here. I'm glad you're here. Peace, buddy.
Absolutely, Dave. Thank you.